Good morning, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. Today I'm going to talk to you about your puppy, your adolescent dog. Are they upsetting you? Are they annoying you? Are they maybe even making you cry? If you don't know my channel, I've got 3 dogs. Harry just walked in. Hump's over here fast asleep, and the other side of me is my little Albert. I've had dogs for years and years, and this morning when I was out on my walk, I got chatting to this lady, and so many of what I tell you on this channel is about stories from people that I've talked to on my dog walks. This lady, I'd seen her quite a lot, and I'm going to tell you about what happened, because you might just, something in the story might just be able to help you out. And when I was talking to her, it brought back memories of a time with me with one of my dogs, and even though it happened to me years ago, it really brought back memories as if it had just happened. She has a dog that's 7 months old. It's a Labrador. Purebred Labrador. And he is a big boy. And I had a chat with her. He was just at the age where he just was able to start coming out for walks and whatnot. So what was he, about? I think he was about 16 weeks old. And he was really nervous and really scared. And he was hiding and really nervous. And then over now he's 7 months old. I've seen her lots of times out on my walks, but I've never talked to her. And he's been getting steadily stronger and stronger, and she's been getting more and more frustrated with him. And this morning I actually got to talk to her, which I was pleased about, because I've got quite close to her, but never actually been able to talk to her. And I don't want to say she's at her wit's end, but I'd say she's pretty close with him. He is pulling really, really badly on the lead, and like I said, he's a big dog, big Labrador, 7 months old, so he hasn't even bulked out yet, but he's got the framework there. About 7 months old is when you kind of got the framework. I always think with dogs like that, it's up to about a year old where you get your framework and then they start to bulk out. So even though he's really strong now, he's going to get a whole lot stronger, and he is just pulling her all over the place. Now, the one good thing is that he's now confident and he's happy and he wants to say hello to everybody. So that's a real plus. And he's really friendly, and she will be very grateful for that in the future. So that's a real plus. But he is pulling us so badly, and he wants to say hello to everybody. And so every time that she's seen us, so that, you know, there's all three of my boys, he is just pulled really, really badly to get to say hello to us. And she's managed to always stop him from getting as far as us, because she's kind of always been at a bit of a distance. But my goodness, is he pulling her. He is pulling her so badly. I'm amazed she hasn't fallen over, because he is pulling her really badly. And she's just getting dragged along by him. And she's getting very upset with him. And I keep seeing her, and I kept thinking, I wish I could talk to her. Because I know it's her first dog, from when she told me, from when he was a tiny puppy. It's her first dog ever. And she just looks like she's having a terrible time about it. And it really reminded me of my very first dog. So the first dog I ever got, which was 20 odd something, 20, what would that be now? 20 odd years ago, was a German Shepherd. And for a first dog, it was a really, really bad choice. There is no way for my first dog I should have had a German Shepherd. And as it turns out, he actually turned into a very big German Shepherd for that. So he was a very, very big, powerful dog. As it happened, it turned out great, because he was trained to be a police dog. And it turned out, you know, he was incredibly clever, and he ignited a passion in me which has stayed with me for the whole of my life. My passion for dogs has never left me. And I just learnt so much from him, so much from him. But it did remind me of how awful it was during adolescence. And because I didn't have the experience, I didn't know how to make it better. And I was saying this to this lady this morning, that there were times when I just used to sit down and cry, because I didn't know how I was going to get out of this mess. I was in a real mess. Every time we went for a walk, he would pull me so bad. A couple of times he had me over. Once it ended up in me in hospital. He pulled me so badly. I was injured all over. I hated taking him out. I absolutely hated taking him out. Which is ridiculous, because now my dog walk is one of my favourite parts of my day. But it was awful. It was really, really awful. And he would just pull me so badly, and there was nothing I could do about it. And it was so bad. And I even got to the point where I contacted the German Shepherd Rescue because I seriously thought about giving him up. Got to a point where I didn't like him because he was just ruining my life. I couldn't, it was just awful. And because I couldn't give him the walks he needed, then that was messing up his behaviour at home and stuff. So it just, with this, seeing this lady just brought all of that back, and it really reminded me of it. And when I was talking to her, I told her, and she just looked so shocked. And I'll tell you why she looked so shocked. Because I used to do this, and I'm sure she's doing it, and I bet there's lots of you out there doing it. Don't compare yourself to other dog walkers. So when Shadow used to be dragging me down the road, that was the name of my dog, I used to be looking at other dog owners who were trotting along with their dogs all trotting along lovely next to them. And I used to just think, how on earth are you all doing this? It's completely impossible. I don't know how you're doing it. And I did have a dog trainer at the time. I had a dog trainer, but it still wasn't working. And I used to really think that all of these people that were trotting down the road nicely with their dogs, I used to think that they were all judging me. I don't know if they were or not. And I'm quite sure that the lady that I spoke to this morning, I'm quite sure that on all the other mornings I've seen her, that she thought I was judging her. And I absolutely was not. I had nothing but sympathy for her. And the thing is, there's a couple of things to remember. That if she was looking at my dogs and thinking, why can't my dog be like that? My dogs are old. So Humps that you're looking at there, I don't know how old he is, but we're averaging about 12. Pickle boy down here that you're looking at, Harry, he's going to be 7 next week. And Albert's the other side of me that you can't see. He's 10. My dogs are really old. You know, we go very slowly on our walks. You know, we do a lot of stopping. There's no way you can compare us. Not to mention the fact that I've had dogs for years and years. Lots of dogs. I've been around dogs all the time. Dogs are my whole life. So I'm just going to be more experienced of being able to stop that kind of behaviour. But the most important thing is, don't be thinking that other people are judging you. Yeah, sure, some might be judging you, but quite frankly, if someone is judging you, they're not worth your effort. Don't give it a second thought. Just let it go. Anyone who's judging you, just don't. But most dog owners, especially dog owners who have been through adolescence, will be feeling sympathy for you because they'll have been there. So the first thing is to stop thinking that people are judging you. So don't be worrying about that. Just be worrying about what you're doing. Don't be thinking people are judging you because they're really probably not. I'm so sure that woman this morning thought that I had been. And I wasn't. I never was. And when I was talking to her this morning, I was telling her about how I used to just sit on the floor and cry. And I'm not a crier. That's not my emotion I go to. But I used to just sit on the floor and cry because I didn't know what else to do. It was making my life so awful. He was so big and powerful. He wasn't listening to anything I said. He was actually injuring me. He was pulling up to go. And the same with this dog. She was saying that he pulled up to a dog earlier and that dog had been aggressive and started growling at him. And she couldn't stop him. She didn't have the power to stop him. And I remember those days and pulling me up to people. And it was really awful, really, really awful. And I often just used to sit down and cry. And definitely started to think about rehoming him. And there were times when I hated him because he was just ruining my life. I brought this dog into my house and was giving him everything I possibly could, and he was still ruining my life. And when I said that to her, her face just changed so much. She just couldn't believe it. She was just like, oh, it's just something that you go through. And the other thing is that I did give her some practical advice as well, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But the other thing is that he's 7 months old now. You give that another year. Okay, he's at 1 year and 7 months, he's still going to be a bouncy puppy, but he will be so much better. He's at 7 months. It's the worst. It's the worst time. I did a video about adolescent dogs and the hormone changes and all of that, and it's the worst time she's going through. And if she just fast forward, it really won't be so bad. But the first thing that she did, so she asked, like, how am I going to stop this? First thing I suggested was that she put a halty on him. So if you don't know, a halty, it works along the same grounds as when you're leading a horse. Obviously, you're not going to put a harness around a horse, and that's never going to work, is it, clearly? So they put, don't they, around the, what do you call that? Is it a nose of a horse? Muzzle of a horse? I don't know what you call it, but the face of a horse. What they use around that is so that they're steering it, so they're steering the head and they're not steering the body. And you can get them for dogs, and they're called halties, and they work the same by, it goes, you controlling the dog by the head, not by the neck and not by the shoulders. and it goes around their muzzle and around the back of the head, and it really doesn't look like much, and it looks like there's no way that's going to hold a dog that powerful, but it does. And that's what I did. I got a Halti with my dog, and it just changed things so much, because you're not dealing with the strength anymore. Now, I'm not saying it immediately made him start walking lovely, because it didn't. You might be able to hear my washing machine clanging. I've got my dog leads in there and they're clanging away. Sorry if that's disturbing you. So the first thing I said to her was to get a Halti. And then she said, oh yeah, I did get one of them and he hated it, and so we stopped. But I told her what I did was, I used to just wear it around my wrist and then have treats in my hand as I was wandering around the house. And then he would learn that if that went around my wrist, it meant he got a treat. I did that for a good few days. And then it got to the point where when he would be taking the treat, I would slip the Halti over his nose and do it up. Then I would give him a treat and then undo it, take it off, and do that for about a week. And then you'll get to a point where they're not so fussed about having it on. He did still used to sometimes like stand on his back legs and use his two front legs to try and get it off. And sometimes what dogs do is they will slide their noses along the ground to try and get it off. If you put a Halti on too loose, it will go up into their eye, and they won't like that, obviously. But the thing is, then they might even start, like, you know, shaking you and stuff like that. But you got to stick with it. And the thing I did was, when I put the Halti on, had some treats in my hands. So as we were leaving the house, try and distract. If you can get a dog's nose, you've kind of got them. So get a treat that's really highly scented and try and put it on and then get their nose. And as you're leaving the house, keep their nose with a really highly scented treats. If you're in the UK, I use Sizzlers, and they are so highly scented and they break down into little bits. And then if you can keep the dog's nose while you're leaving the house, and then once you're out on the walk, I generally found that they kind of got distracted by stuff. But if they do all that playing up business, don't worry. The thing I think is the most alarming is that it looks like two tiny little strands, and you're kind of trying to control this big dog with it. But it's got backup, because it does up at the back as well as the front, so it's not going to come off. And what you can do is, if that really worries you, put on your dog's collar, have the other end of another bit of the lead attached to the collar. So if that does happen, if it did come off while you were just training him with it, you have got the dog, you're holding the dog on the collar. That's probably a good idea. I never did that, but it probably would have been a good idea. The other thing is that my dogs, honestly, you get nothing, do you? They don't give you a lot during my videos. They've had their walk and their breakfast, and this is what they do all morning. The other thing is that her footwear, the lady just had normal boots on, just like you would wear to work or shopping, or, you know, just like normal boots. And I could see when he was pulling her, she was sliding across the grass. So absolutely, you've got to get decent footwear. Get proper walking boots. Or at the moment I wear walking sandals because it's summertime. If you go into my video, what I take on my dog walk, can't think where that would be under the playlist. I think there's a playlist for dog walking. I'll try and find it and I'll put it up at the end of this video. I'll show you the different shoes and stuff that I wear, and I'll talk you through them. Because you cannot wear normal footwear. Walking dogs, you just generally can't, because you don't know if you're going to slip and slide. But especially, and I remember again with Shadow, when he used to pull me, I basically needed my feet to be stuck to the floor. And using proper, good dog walking shoes, I know, absolutely essential, because it's hard enough even when you're wearing them, but you've got much less chance of slipping. And the other thing is this lady was saying that she's worried because we're in September now. When it starts to get icy, there's just no way. There's just no way. He's just going to have her over. There's no way. And so yeah, she's got to get good footwear. The other thing I used to find with Shadow was to get a good stance. So I used to do martial arts. I don't anymore, but I used to do martial arts. And one of the things we were always taught was how to stand. So you stand with your legs about 2 feet apart, and you use solid. So you're solid through the legs. If you stand like that, it's much harder for your dog to pull you. And then, so that's how I used to start. And then if the pulling gets really bad, just take only one of your legs, so just your right leg, step forward with it. So don't move. So your left leg, you keep that where it was, but just your right leg, step forward with it. And then that gives you a really solid stance, and it's much, much harder for the dog to pull you over. So she's going to try all of them. The other thing is, and I hate saying this, shall I show you Albert? Not that he's a lot more awake. This is my little Albert, if you don't know my channel. The other thing is the energy. Now, I hate to even mention this, because when you are being pulled down the road by a dog, really, you know, it's very hard to stay calm and not to get frustrated. So the first thing is, if you are getting frustrated and you're not being calm, don't give yourself a hard time about that, because I know I certainly never stay calm. But if you can stay calm, you are helping so much. Because when you get frustrated, all you're doing is adding to the energy and giving the whole situation more energy. If you shout at the dog, really, he's not actually listening to you anyway, because he's so excited about being outside and doing what he's doing. So you're really not going to achieve a lot, if anything, at shouting at them. They're just not listening to you at that point. The best thing you can do is get yourself calm. Make sure you've got a calm energy. And I know how hard that is. It's really, really hard. But if you can stay calm, then that would help so much. Look, he's all what you would think. I didn't ever groom this boy. Every day he gets brushed, he gets washed down. Look at him. Not washed down every day, just like, you know, to get mud and stuff off him. But he's always got a dirty face. Always, isn't you, little boy? Always. Right, we'll go back over it. The other thing is that with any dog is you are never going to wear any dog out just from walking, because all you're going to be doing is getting them fitter and fitter. You're never going to get them worn out. And especially with the lady, she had him on a harness. So all she's doing is getting him stronger and stronger to be able to pull him. But something I say to anybody with dog problems are you putting some training into your dog? And I'm not talking about just the general, you know, like sit and sort of stuff that you almost need out of necessity. But using their brain, because taking them for a walk, yeah, sure, it is stimulating. It definitely is. But it's really exercise. And that's fine and that's great, and you absolutely need that. And if you don't walk your dog, you are going to have problems. But you also need to use their brain. And it doesn't have to be complicated things. But if you use their brain, so they estimate, and I completely agree with this, I've seen this so many times. If you do 10 minutes of using your dog's brain, it is the equivalent of an hour's walking. Now, whilst this training should never be a substitute for walking ever, it really is of value to do it. And I know when we first got Humps at the back, so we've had him for a year, came from Korea, and when he first came, he was really aggressive and scared and everything. And one of the things that I did to really help him out was I put him on, we used his brain a lot to get really got him trained up to use his brain. And now I've backed right off of it. I do training every day with my dogs, but backed off from what I had, because that training him in the beginning really got him so tired that he was too tired to be aggressive. And it helped no end. I mean, now we've sorted it all out. He's turned into the most beautiful boy. But things like if you go to a playlist, go to indoor games for dogs, there's a video on there called Find It, and it is, I do the complicated version on that video, but it really can be something as simple as getting a handful of treats. Be careful, make sure they're really, really, really tiny so you're not overloading your dog with treats, and just throwing them all around the garden and letting him go and find them all, so he really uses his nose. And that's quite a good one, because if you're busy, that doesn't take up too much of your time. And I do a more complicated version of that, where I hide stuff around the house and I teach them to show me that they found the treat. So it's just worth going and watching that if you need to get your dog tired. And then obviously there is things like teaching your dog to actually do stuff. So I don't record enough videos on this stuff, and I should do, because it's important, and I do it every day, so I really don't know why I don't. But teach dogs, like with Humps, one of the things I taught him when he first came and we were having aggressive problems, I taught him to ring so I got, you know when you go into a hotel and you can ring the reception bell? So I got one of them and I taught him to ring it. And then I taught him, from then I taught him that if he rang the bell, all my boys would get a treat. And so he learned that if it was on the floor, if he went over and rang it, everybody would get a treat. And, you know, he was really clever to learn that. And I took him through different stages to learn that. I'll go through that with him. I really must do a video on that. I really must. Hang on, let me write a little note down here to make a note to do a video on that, because it's a great way to use your dog's brain. And, oh, he's off. Oh, postman. I think we've got the postman. Hold on. Yeah, that was the postman. Yeah, so what else was I saying? Oh, yeah, so the training. So you can just teach them stuff like basic commands, like go to bed, you know, sit down, come, heel, all of that. And also there are puzzles you can get. So you can get different puzzles and you put treats in them and they have to work them out. Some of them are really hard. And my dogs are very much all different levels of intelligence, and I have got them sometimes and they just have not got the hang of it at all, like have not got it. But then other times there's been puzzles where they've really got it, and it's really been a good way to use their mind. They're really good. So I just go to like Pets at Home or whatever, or you can get them on Amazon or whatever, and you can just put treats in them, and you know, it's a really good way to use your dog's mind. And you'll see, if you do stuff like that with your dog, you'll see how tired they get after it. They really sleep deeply. And if you can just get them more generally tired, then you'll find that they shouldn't be so excited about the walk. All dogs, I mean, you know, like I said, my dogs are all really old and they still love going on their walks. Dogs love going on walks. And so it is quite hard to get a puppy to not be excited about it. But you just help you take the edge off it. The other thing is, if that all you're ever doing is taking them for the walks and not using their brain, the rest of the time they're just in the house. If it's the only time they're leaving the house, they are going to be really super excited about it. And so if you can try and make inside the house a little bit more stimulating for them, then they might not be so bad outside the house. But I know quite a few of you have contacted me about similar problems. And you all say, I've put in another walk. So we're doing, like, I think, you know, sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours walking. Yeah, you're just making the situation worse. And I've said, stop that. Do a morning 45-minute walk. And then do like a 20-minute walk in the evening. But get their brains used. Use their brains. I only walk my dogs once a day. And because they're older now, I walk them for about 45 minutes to an hour in the morning. But that is an awful lot of standing around and chatting to people that we know. They wouldn't be able to do an hour walking. That's too much for them now. They're old boys. And so we do a lot of standing around and chatting to people. But then they, like, if I've got to go and do something in the afternoon, they come with me. And so, you know, but they don't do 2 walks any day anymore. Not 2 walks a day. But some are, you know, when they were younger they did. They always had 2 walks a day. So it just depends on their age, really. So I hope that this helps. If you're thinking, I can't do this anymore, I want to rehome them. For some of you, that is the wrong thing. For me, that was absolutely the wrong thing. I know I made the right choice by keeping it. But for some of you, it is going to be the right thing. And I don't know if you maybe are giving yourself a hard time about that. Don't do that, because you didn't know. And owning a dog is a massive responsibility, and it's really hard. And it's not for everybody, and you know, you just made a mistake, and that's fine. Don't give yourself a hard time about that. Make sure that you do rehome them responsibly. Don't put them onto any of these online websites where anybody can just buy them, because you don't know who's going to end up with them. But if you do the responsible thing and you take them to a rehoming centre, they're not going to judge you. You made a mistake and you're doing the right thing. If you take them to a rehoming centre, then you know they're going to end up in a good home. And if you weren't the best home for them, then you know that it will be a better home for them and that they'll be happier. As long as you do the responsible thing. But please believe that the rescue centres will not be judging you. They'll be glad that you did the right thing. You didn't just tie them up in the park, or, you know, just sell them on somewhere where you don't know who's going to get them. If you take them to the rescue centre, then you know that they've got a good home. But don't give yourself a hard time about it. You just made a mistake. You know, owning a dog is not for everybody, and it's not easy. It can be really hard. And if you are deciding that you're going to try and stick with it, please bear in mind that everybody's been through that, and experienced dog owners only become experienced dog owners because at some point we went through stuff like that, and then and it will get easier. And I know that, like with all of this, so if Harry here, I had him from a tiny puppy, and obviously it was much easier for me then because he was like, I'd had many dogs before him, and so it just generally just does get easier. But please just remember that I don't know anybody whose first dog was adolescent and they sailed through it. That just isn't part of it. But it will, you know, as the dog gets older, it will get easier. But whether you decide to stick with it or whether you don't, you know, that's your call, and there's no judgment. You know, there's no judgment at all. So if you've got any questions about this, if there's anything I can help you with, or anything to do with dogs, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm more than happy to help. I've suffered and I've been through it all, so you know, I might as well share that with you and help your suffering. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram and Twitter, and then obviously I'm on here, so you can contact me any of those ways. So I hope that you and your dogs will have a really lovely day. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.